November 7th, 1918, Volume 12, The Soul Who Does the Will of God Imprisons Jesus. Finding myself in my usual state, I was saying to my sweet Jesus, if you wanted me to leave my usual state, how is it possible that, after all this time, you don't make me content? And he told me, Daughter, one who does my will and lives in my volition, and not for a short time, but for a period of her life, forms a prison for me within her heart, completely and fully of my will. Therefore, as she kept doing my will and trying to live in my volition, she raised the walls of this divine and celestial prison, and to my highest contentment, I remained imprisoned within it. And as she kept absorbing me, I absorbed her within me, in such a way as to form her imprisonment in me. So she has remained imprisoned in me, and I in her. Then when the soul wants something, I say to her, you have always done my will. It is right that sometimes I do yours. More so since this soul lives from my will, and therefore what she wants can be a fruit, a desire, of my own will which lives in her. Therefore do not worry. When it is necessary, I will do your will. November 7th, 1937, Volume 35. How all the truths written about the divine will form the day for those who will live in it. The Queen of Heaven yearns with love, wanting to endow her children. I felt my poor mind as though crowded by so many truths that Jesus made me write about the divine will. And I was thinking to myself, who knows when these truths on the divine Fiat will come to light, and what good they will produce? My sweet Jesus surprising me with his little visit, all goodness and tenderness told me, my daughter, I too feel the love, need of making you see the order that these truths will have and the good they will produce. These truths on my divine will form the day of my Fiat in the midst of the creatures. According to their knowledge, this day will be rising. So as they begin to know the first truths that I have manifested to you, a most splendid dawn will arise, provided that they will have goodwill and the disposition to make their own life of these truths. However, these truths will also have the virtue of disposing the creatures and of giving the light to many blind who don't know my will or love it. Then, once the dawn is arisen, they will feel invested by a celestial peace and more strengthened in the good. They themselves will yearn to know more truths, which will form the beginning of the day of my divine will. This beginning of the day will increase the light and the love. All things will turn into good for the creatures. Passions will lose the power to make them fall into sin. One can say that they will feel the first order of the divine good, which will facilitate their actions for them. They will feel a strength with which they can do everything, since its primary virtue is exactly this: to inject in the soul a transformation of her nature in good. So feeling the great good of the beginning of the day, they will long for the day to advance. They will then know more truths that will form the full day. In this full day, they will vividly feel the life of my will within themselves, its joy and happiness, its operative and creative virtue within them. They will feel the possession of my very life, becoming the bearers of my divine will. The full day will provoke in them so much yearning to know more truths that, once known, they will form the full afternoon. In this, the creature will no longer feel alone. Between her and my will there will be no more separation. What my will do, she will do as well, operating together. All will be her own by right, heaven, earth, and God himself. Do you see then how noble, divine, and precious will be the scope of these truths that I made you write on my divine will, in order to form the day of the creature? For some they will form the dawn, for some the beginning of the day, for some others the full day, and lastly the full afternoon. These truths will form, according to their knowledge, the different categories of the souls who will live in my will. One knowledge more or one less will make them rise or stay in the different categories. Knowledge will be the hand to boost them up to the higher categories. It will be the very life of the fullness of my will within them. Therefore I can say that with these truths I formed the day for whoever wants to live in my divine will, a day of heaven greater than creation itself, not of sun or stars, because each truth has the virtue of creating our life in the creature. Oh, how this surpasses the whole of creation! Our love surpassed everything in manifesting so many truths on my divine will. Our glory on the part of the creatures will be full, because they will possess our life to glorify us and to love us. As far as the emerging of these truths go, just as I had the power and the love to assist the one to whom I had to manifest them, in the same way I have power and love to invest the creatures and transform them into these very truths. And feeling their life, they will also feel a great need to give to the light what they feel within themselves. Therefore, don't get worried. I, who can do all, will do all and take care of all. After this, I was following the acts of the divine will that contained all the works, loves, prayers, sufferings, palpitating life, breaths, and all that the Queen of Heaven has done, as if she was just doing them. And I hugged them, I kissed them, I adored them and offered them in order to obtain the coming of the kingdom of the divine will upon earth. Then my sweet Jesus, continuing his say, added, "My blessed daughter, one who lives in my will can enter everywhere and give me everything, even my celestial mother, as if she were her own, the way in which she loved me and everything that I did. This creature can even duplicate my life, as if it were her own, and give it to me to love me. You must know that, as I formed the day of the creature by manifesting many truths on my divine will to you, so the Sovereign of Heaven, with her love, sufferings, prayers, and acts, which done in my divine will filled heaven and earth, forming the appropriate endowment for those who will live in it, with great anxiety longs and sighs to be able to equip her children. She sees herself immersed in many riches of grace, love, and sanctity, but she can't find her children to equip them, since they don't live in that same will in which she lived. Look, my daughter, how it is written in everything she did and suffered. For my children. Therefore, if she loves, she calls her children to receive the endowment of her love, in order to make us recognize them as her children, and as our children too, and to love them as we love her. If she prays, she wants to give the endowment of her prayer. In sum, she wants to provide them with all her sanctity, with her pains, and with the very life of her Son. How touching it is to hear her and to look at her keeping her children within her maternal heart, as if inside a sacrarium. In all her acts and breaths, she calls her children and says to our Supreme Being, "All that I am and possess is all for my children. Please listen to me. I feel my heart bursting for love. Have mercy on a mother who loves and wants to provide for her children, to make them happy. My happiness is not full. I feel it halved because I don't have my children delighting together with me. Therefore hurry, may the divine will be known, so that they may also know the restlessness of their mother, and how I want to provide for them, and make them happy and holy. Do you think that we remain indifferent before this touching scene? Before she, who is in spasms of love, so much that, with her maternal tenderness and with her rights as a mother, she prays to us and begs us? Ah, no! How many times, because of her concerns, I manifest more surprising truths on my Fiat, to give her free rein to pour out to her children a more extensive provision, since she will be allowed to do it only in accordance with their knowledge. Therefore, you too enter my divine will, and together with this celestial mother pray and supplicate that our will may be known and reign in all the creatures. End of November 7th. Fiat.